Wonderful to have you here, TJ Woodward from West Hollywood, or just now located in West Hollywood, and Harold Payne, my friend from San Pedro. So wonderful that you are here, and everyone as a part of service today. Margie is our Zoom tech. I'll be doing the meditation today. Our readings are by Chris, announcements are by Linda, and prayer is by BJ. And let's just center ourselves for a moment as we welcome everyone that comes to this service. Just centering in the gratitude, knowing that we're all here for expansion of love, expansion of our awareness as we awaken more and more with this intentional spiritual community, forming this spiritual practice called Unity San Jose as we enter our 75th year, starting in July. So I'm so grateful for everyone here for co-creating this service together. And so it is. And I'm going to spotlight you, Harold, for your opening song.
Okay. You may get knocked down, but you get up again. Spirit renewed, the new you begins. Today is the first day of the best of your life. Step into your greatness, stand in your light. No matter what, I will hold my vision. No matter what, I will stand strong. No matter what, I will stay on my journey. No matter how lonely, no matter how long, no matter what, you are more than enough. You have all that you need waiting inside. You just have to believe. Nothing can stop you from completing your mission. It's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. No matter what, I will hold my vision. No matter what, I will stand strong. No matter what, I will stay on my journey. No matter how lonely, no matter how long, no matter what. When a mighty wind blows, I will not be shaken. I am stronger for the winding road I have taken. No matter what, I will hold my vision. No matter what, I will stand strong. No matter what, I will stay on my journey. No matter how lonely, no matter how long, no matter what.
Thank you, Harold Payne. You would have think that you were at our gathering last night. We talked about no matter what, no matter the winds, we will not be shaken in the storm. So thank you for that message. And can everybody see the screen I just shared, by the way? Okay, great. Having some technical things on this end. So I'm just looking up at the beautiful clouds and the sunlight. My mom always used to say when that happened with the sunlight that's God. And I'm sure some of you know that feeling. And so as we continue to awaken in the spring, I just think about how these delicate flowers just come to bloom in the right conditions. So just drinking in for a moment. I'm just picturing maybe this is like the foothills in the Bay Area, and maybe the Bay is in there. So all the elements are here. And as we take a deep breath and relax and go inside, so grateful for these elements. So grateful that not only the water and the air and the soil and the light that sustains everything, but everything created by that. All the food that we eat every day, all the friends that come into our purvey, all the thoughts, everything that motivates every cell to do everything that it does, and everything that motivates every organ to do everything it does. So many millions of things that we're not even aware of that come to play just so we can be here right now. So grateful for this. And as we come into the springtime, I'm thinking about those flowers again, and how the perfect environment is created. And even when the environment isn't perfect, those flowers are finding a way to blossom and bloom, given just enough light and water and soil. So what are those things for you, physically, mentally, and spiritually, that are the elements that make you bloom? And no matter what season it is, and no matter what day it is, we're capable of blooming and shining our lights so bright, especially in the darkness. Each one of us shines like a unique flower that has never been seen before, that is begging to be seen by someone who will recognize all the gifts uniquely that you will bring. And so we're here for a moment in this field together, each one of us a different flower, a different unique, radiant life form, with such myriad gifts to give. And so thinking about the theme of springtime, I think about not only of awakening, but I think about beginning again. Beginning again, or as Myrtle Fillmore would say, newing. So let's just appreciate now that we can renew, or as Joe Dispenza calls, we can break the habit of being ourselves. Breaking the habit of being ourselves, or the art of unbecoming the things that detract from us. Just like Michelangelo carved away the things that weren't David, so we can carve away the things that aren't you through our spiritual willingness. And so whichever one of those themes, the newing, the soil, the elements that make you bloom, let's just contemplate one of those for a moment in gratitude as we go into the silence. And as we take a deep breath in, gently coming into this space, let's think about it doesn't matter that this service happens every Sunday. Each service is new. Each service is unique. And when we show up with that mindset, we're open to so many insights and so many blessings. And for this, I'm truly grateful. And so it is. And Chris, I'm going to spotlight you for today's reading.
Today's reading is adapted from the Unity Daily Word. When I listen to my inner conversation and recurring thoughts, I may hear fear-based, limiting talk, or instead, I may hear positive words encouraging me every step of the way. The choice is mine. Through my divine nature, I take command of my thoughts and my life. I release thoughts of powerlessness, and as I do so, my negative self-talk diminishes. I affirm my divine wisdom, understanding, and strength with my thoughts, words, and actions. The power to live a full life is mine. I embrace insights I've gained through experience. I own my mistakes without shame or embarrassment. I go forth and consciously create my life. And so it is. Please join me in our opening affirmation. There is only one power and one presence active in the universe and in my life. God in everything and everyone. The one infinite source of love, abundance, harmony, wholeness, intelligence, and joy is expressing as me.
Thank you, Chris. And before we welcome TJ here, I was just really excited. I was talking with TJ before service about the project that he did that was released on video by wholehearted.org. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, TJ, with the esteemed Gabor Mate and TJ Woodward and others. But it's you should go to TJ's Facebook page and check that out. It's a wonderful video, and it's a great accomplishment by TJ. TJ, can't wait to hear your talk today. I'm going to spotlight you. We give you a warm Zoom welcome.
Thank you so much, David, and thank you for the shout out. Yes, it's truly an honor to have collaborated with Gabor. I look forward to working with him more. He's someone who embodies in such a deep and beautiful way a profound shift in the way we view wellness and mental health. And even though maybe he wouldn't call his work spiritual, to me, his work is deeply spiritual. So I'm honored to have collaborated with him. And I'm so honored to be here with each of you. And the talk title today is Shift Happens. And it reminded me, as we were in the silence, I was reminded of a very simple quote. And one of the things that I most appreciate is simplicity. Because sometimes the most powerful truths can come in such a powerful, very simple way of stating it. And that is this: life is 10% what happens and 90% how we respond. And in Unity, we might say life is 10% what happens and 90% what we call it. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the shift, if you will, from looking at things that happen in our life that we might call manure, and shifting that in a very simple way to looking at it as fertilizer. So something happens, We name it something, and based on what we call it, we have the experience of it, not because of what happened, but how we frame it. Now, one might say, are there exceptions to this? There might be, but I think life is a great experiment. So, what I'm encouraging each of us to do today and every day, and more specifically in this moment, is to look at something in your life that's happening that maybe you have, at some point in your life, you would have called bad, wrong, terrible, horrible. Isn't it awful this is happening? And then just feel the energy of that. Feel the energy of what it's like when we call something horrible or terrible, and then ask yourself the question, is it possible for me in this moment to shift it into a different possibility and ask, I wonder what the fertilizing effect of this situation will be in my life. I wonder if this event is happening so that I can know myself more deeply. I wonder if it's possible for me to look at every situation in my life and look for the opportunity for new growth. We're here in the springtime, and if you follow the Christian calendar, today is Palm Sunday. I say that slowly because I think all of you will appreciate this, and it's a true story. I think it was Palm Sunday of 2013 or 2014 when I said, hello, everyone. If you follow the Christian calendar, today is Palm Springs. And I quickly realized I had said Palm Springs instead of Palm Sunday. So I do appreciate humor whenever possible. But if you do follow that story, the story from the Bible that is Palm Sunday, you know that it's the day that Jesus went into Jerusalem on the donkey. And the palms were laid out to welcome him into this holy land. But what we know is that he was actually going in to be crucified. And then if you follow that story, or the story says, then 3 days later to rise again. And those of us who are in New Thought have been instructed to look at each story and interpret that. David, you and I have been to a lot of classes at Unity Village, and so we know very well about metaphysically interpreting stories out of the Bible and other sacred texts. And when I was in school, I remember thinking, you know, it's really great that they're kind of teaching us how to use Charles Fillmore's metaphysical Bible dictionary to look at what the different words mean. But then there's also this place where we find ourselves asking the question, what does this story mean to me? How might this story relate to my life? And if we look at this story, we know that Jesus came into Jerusalem knowing that the crucifixion was happening and choosing to go forward anyway. And when I reflect on that, I think about the unconscious and the conscious, and how for so long I was just riding around aimlessly, not knowing where I was going and completely unaware, and just thinking that life was giving me an experience. And based on what happened, I was either happy or I was sad, or I was frustrated or I was peaceful. It was a very outside in way of living. And then I realized at some point that I have the power to change the way I'm viewing the situation, and therefore then change the experience of the situation. And so as I look at this story, I can ask myself the question, is it possible for me to be aware of those parts of me that I'm ready to, and crucify may sound like a very strong word, but let's say the parts of me that David so beautifully said that I want to unlearn and unbecome. What are those stories, those ideas, those beliefs, that narrative we've been carrying around for months, years, some of us, if we're really honest, decades, these stories that keep us limited, that keep us stuck? And is it possible for us to say, today is the day that I am going to consciously allow myself to look? Because that's what this week could represent, this Holy Week, this week of preparing for the resurrection, if you will, or the emergence into a new life, a new way of being, the birth of a new consciousness, a new way of being and seeing, the resurrection of the old me into a new and wonderful, fully embracing the truth of who and what I am, and therefore moving beyond the old stories that have kept me stuck. So that all sounds really wonderful, but how do we actually do it? I remember when I came to Unity in 1988 and I started hearing this idea, change your thinking, change your life. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that's so incredible, because I just thought life was happening. And based on what happened, I was happy or I was sad, as I said. And coming into unity and hearing we actually create our reality based on our thoughts, this was groundbreaking for me. And then I spent the next decade trying to change my thinking. And I had some really great success with that. And I also had some times where it was very difficult. And I had to meet myself and realize, as much as I wanted to move beyond an old story of lack or limitation, it just kept showing up for me. And full transparency, what I was trying to do is I was trying to crucify it, actually. I was trying to get rid of it. I was trying to pretend like it wasn't true. I was trying to trick the universe into bringing me all the things that I wanted through positive thinking. And I met myself in this place that was so beautiful at one point, where I realized that it's through compassion, through really loving all parts of myself, including the stories of lack and limitation, that allowed me to start to transmute it. So that what we might call the manure of our life can then become fertilizer for new growth. And if you look at it, the metaphor, you can't just take a seed and put it out in the hot sun. It will burn. It has to be put down into the soil. And as David said earlier, the conditions have to be created for the growth to happen. So one question might be, what are the conditions that are required for us during this week, if we're using this story as a time of reflection, as a time of moving inward, as a time of recognizing that as long as it's trapped in the unconscious, it will continue to run our life, but we will not realize it's running our life. We will think life is happening to us. When we realize that what's trapped in the unconscious or buried in the unconscious is running the show, but as our wonderful friend Byron Katie says, but only 100% of the time, then I realized there's this thing that happens, or it did for me. There was this beautiful place where I said, I am 100% accountable for my life. And then there was this place where I said, oh, I'm 100% accountable for my life. And where the two of those met was this beautiful place where I started to look at myself through a different lens. And that lens was compassion, curiosity, and understanding. Because what I was doing prior to that was looking at certain aspects of myself as bad or wrong that must be eradicated. And I had tried, like I said, for a decade to change my quote unquote negative thinking, but it just kept showing up. It kept showing up, and it just kept showing up. And that's how it felt. I'm repeating it that way for a reason, because that's how it felt. Gosh, I keep doing these affirmations. I'm doing the prayer. I'm doing the meditation. I'm doing the positive thinking, but it's still there. And quite frankly, I was really trying to reject a part of me. And when I came to an awareness that we're not really only spiritual beings having a human experience, but we're spiritual beings having a spiritual experience, then I reached this place where I said, what if it's all spiritual? In other words, even the stuff in my life I'm calling manure, even those old beliefs that seem to keep repeating, that keep me feeling stuck, what if I were to love them? I remember when I first met Amma. Amma's a guru who lives in southern India, and this was in the mid 80s. I met her, and the first time I was in her presence, I remember just feeling this wave of unconditional love that seemed to have an instantaneous effect on me in a beautiful way. And I was just mesmerized by her presence and her being. And there was a question and answer period, and someone asked her, how do you quit smoking, or how should I quit smoking? And she said, you start by loving yourself as a smoker and loving the cigarette. And I thought, now that does not make sense to me, because, at the time I was newer in my process of awakening, I was newer in my recovery, and I was in my early 20s. And I thought, that can't be true. How can you possibly love that thing that you want to change? And so many of us have been conditioned to have conditional love for ourself and for the world. I will love myself. I will love the parts of myself that I accept and cherish. And then I will reject the parts of myself that I'd rather not look at. We might call it the shadow or the unconscious. When I came to a place of understanding that love is a greater change agent than criticism or judgment, then I started to become curious about loving all aspects of self. And as I often talk about, the important for me, it's a two-step process, really, or twofold process. And one is reconnecting or remembering the truth of who we are that is infinite. Unity's first principle, there's one power and one presence active in my life and in the universe. When I understand experientially who and what I truly am, and I make contact with that or spend dedicated time in the silence reconnecting with that, which isn't really accurate because we never actually disconnected, but bringing my awareness back to that knowing, then from there, I can start to basically unlearn just about everything I've ever been taught that's counter to I am an infinite being and everyone else is an infinite being as well. So through compassion, through curiosity, through openness, and through love, we can start to look at all aspects of self and we can say, what if every situation that's ever happened can be used as fertilizer for new growth? Not to be rejected, not to say it's terrible that this happened, but I will somehow work through it. But what if there is a fertilizing effect that can come from every situation? Another way to say it is no matter what has happened to you, and I'm using that language consciously because at some level of consciousness, we would say it's happening to us. So no matter what's happened to you, and no matter what you have done, an awareness of the truth of who and what you are that is beyond limitation, and coming from that place and looking outward at life from this place changes everything. Then we can start to say, isn't it interesting that that person just said that? And isn't it interesting that I felt that little tightness, that little reactivity, that little place that touched that wound deep within me? And at a moment of awakening, at a moment of awareness, we can say, it's not their words that hurt me, it's that it touched a wound. And that wound is being touched because it's wanting to heal. And in this moment, I'm going to say that what that person just said is fertilizer for my own growth, my own wholeness, and my own healing. And in that way, we can say thank you to the sender. Thank you to the person who offered us words of encouragement and love. And thank you to the person that we perceived offered us words of criticism, because they're both useful if I'm willing to lean in and see what's there. Because the greatest freedom we will ever experience is freedom from the reactive mind or the reactive impulse. So to be present with what is and to feel deeply what is happening right in this moment is to allow ourselves in a very compassionate way to ask the question, where do I want to put my energy now? Which story would I like to tell about this situation? Do I want to talk about this story through the lens of lack and separation and us and them and good and bad? Or do I want to talk about this story through the lens of the transformational quality that has come within the judgment or the criticism or the opinion? Imagine a world for just one moment, right here in this moment, if each of us were to pause and take a deep breath and be accountable for the way we're viewing the world. And then ask ourselves the question, what kind of world do I want to create? Being in that frequency and being in that openness, there would be an instantaneous shift on planet Earth. And yet we think it's a process. It's sort of like, I remember the first time I heard the term peace fighter. I'm like, how can you be a fighter for peace? I don't think that's the way it works. And yet that's deeply ingrained in our consciousness. We must fight for peace. We must fight for freedom. But the truth is, that's our birthright. The truth is, peace is right here. It's who and what we are. And as I understand that and anchor in that knowing, then I can look at every situation through this lens of curiosity. As the Course in Miracles says, everything is love or a request for love. Then I can start asking myself, What is the request for love here? What is my request for love at those times that I feel angry or hurt or frustrated? What is my partner's request, my boss's request, the person in traffic, the person in the grocery store? We have a choice. And you have a choice right now how you view the world and what you call the world. The power is yours and yours only. And that can be the most liberating thing, but it can also be, as I said before, oh, I'm accountable for my life. I remember Reverend Maureen Bass. She was the senior minister of Unity San Francisco in the early 2000s, just an incredibly dynamic speaker. And she would say, let's talk about how powerful you are. Let's look at your bank account. Has your bank account been small for years and years and years? I want you to say, look how powerful I am that I keep creating lack over and over and over again. Are your relationships difficult? I want you to say, look how powerful I am that I keep manifesting and replicating these difficult relationships. And from there, that place of owning our power, then I can say, oh my gosh, I want to create more love. I want to create more connection. I want to create more abundance in my life. What would be required of me in order to tap into that ultimate power to realize who and what I truly am and to bring that into every situation? What are the old ideas and old, or as my friend said, it's not an old idea if you still have it, and it's not an old behavior if you're still doing it. So what are the thoughts and behaviors that I have continued to do that have kept me stuck, kept me small, and kept me limited? What would it be like for me to say, today is the day that I have a new agreement? I am no longer going to be in agreement with lack or limitation, because we know, as Buddha said 2,500 years ago, there's a big difference between pain and suffering. Can I allow myself to have a situation that might feel painful and allow myself to feel that pain and then let it move through me so that I don't move into suffering? And suffering is usually something like, they shouldn't have said that. This shouldn't be happening. Why do I keep doing this? Or the ever popular, I thought by now at age fill in the blank, I would be finished with this, but I still keep doing it. So we want to say thank you to every situation that has ever happened. And we know that we have the power to fertilize that now, to use that as new growth, to use the story of consciously moving into an awareness that it's time for us to move beyond these old stories. We don't really have to crucify the old stories. We just take our energy away from them and put our energy on something truer, infinite beingness, infinite possibilities, effervescent energy. If there's an issue in my body, I can say, who's in charge here? Spirit. I spoke at Unity of Santa Barbara last Sunday, and I don't know where this came from, but I had this idea during the meditation to look at myself kind of as a corporation and ask, who's the CEO in the 4 rooms: physical, intellectual, emotional, or spiritual? And when the spiritual room is the CEO, then the physical self reports to the spiritual room. The thoughts report to the spiritual room. The emotions report to the spiritual room. When I'm anchored in the truth of who and what I am, and I understand that spirit as me is in charge, then it starts to affect the body and the thoughts and the emotions. So we can spend 30 years, 40 years, 50 years trying to change our thinking. We're trying to focus on how we can be healthier physically, or how we can learn how to get in touch with our emotions and share them more freely. Or we can take a shortcut, and that shortcut is, I know who I am. And I feel very deeply that this is this new me that is being birthed. And at this time, I'm allowing myself to have the fertilizing effect. The seed is in the soil. I'm in the silence with great anticipation of this awakening that is happening. and infusing all of that with gratitude. And so in closing, what I want to offer is quite simple, and that is simply this. What are you calling your life right now? What are you calling your financial situation right now? What are you calling your relationships right now? Your community right now? Your physical health right now? Your thoughts, your emotions? The invitation is to say, oh, I really like what I see. This is beautiful. Or, oh, thank you for sharing. I know who I am. I know who I am. I am love. I am peace. I am joy. I am infinite beingness. And I now go into the world radiating this, watching every relationship heal instantaneously. What if it's not a process? So as we go out into our day, our evening, we do so with the conscious awareness that we are choosing. And today, we choose peace and we choose love. Peace and blessings, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is.
Faster and faster, this world keeps spinning around. Seems like the more we build up, the more we tear each other down. All the progress and technology won't bring an end to war and poverty until we see all we really need. Yeah. A little more love, a little more trust in each other. If we're willing to try, then we just might finally discover that all the problems we feel in our heart can never be strong enough to stop the power of a little more love. Lying awake, searching for something to say. Wanting so much to reach out, but feeling so far away. We keep trying to figure it out, how to break through the distance and doubt, but it just might be that all we need, all we really need, is just a little more love, a little more trust in ourselves and each other. If we're willing to try, we just might finally discover love will be our harbor when we're lost at sea. Love is always the answer, whatever the question, whatever we need. All we need is just a little more love, a little more trust in ourselves and each other. If we're willing to try, we just might finally discover problems we feel in our soul can never hold us back. As long as we have a little more love, more love for ourselves and each other. Oh, a little more love, a little more trust. Oh, loving ourselves just a little bit more, little bit more, little more love.
Thank you, Harold, and thank you, TJ. Music always seals the message for me. Just so amazing. So now is our time for community prayer, and today I would just like to ask you, looking at your power to create, what is your prayer in this moment? What is your prayer? So let's visualize whatever our prayer is to be. What does it look like when it's answered prayer? What does it feel like when it's answered prayer? So let's also give unconditional support to everyone's prayers in the room. So grateful for this chance to pray, knowing it's done, and so it is. And I'm going to share my screen here. So this is a very ancient offering prayer. Well, not ancient, but it's very old and traditional, and I love it. It's used through many unity churches around the world, variations of it. So let's say it with heart right now. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that we are, all that we have, all that we give, and all that we receive. Our generous love offerings do good work in our community and beyond, and they are returned to us, multiplied abundantly. And in that spirit, I invite you to go to our website after we're done with service, or sometime when it works for you, to go to our donation page, and we are gratefully accepting your love offerings. So, Linda, I'm going to spotlight you for some announcements.
Thank you. Thank you so much, TJ and Harold. It's always so wonderful to have you. Your messages are always so inspiring, and we always love having you here. Join Reverend David at our midweek gathering this Wednesday night at 7 p.m., which is based on journaling and sharing around 3 spiritual questions of the week. Oh, save the date, June 22nd, for a concert with Daniel Nahmod in person at our venue in Los Gatos. Tickets available soon. Unity is sustained by generous monthly donations like yours. To donate, just go to the donation page on our website. We are so grateful. And back to you, David.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, that slide surprised you. I just created it about an hour ago. So excited about Daniel Nahmod. We finally worked out a concert date. For those of you who have never heard his music, I invite you to just preview it. YouTube has some great ways to listen to his music. So let's, I changed one word in this, and I'm not going to talk a lot about it, but you'll see what word in here I brought back because I feel it needed to be brought back. But let's say this together. Say with me: the light of God surrounds us. I am that light. The love of God enfolds us. I am that love. The power of God protects us. I am that power. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.